a Viking to just hold off any void ray, because the worst thing that could possibly happen to you at this point is a void ray comes in, snipes my supply depots, snipes like some SEVs, and we become an elimination war, which is something that I don't want. You know, I want to secure the game. And here the push comes, and you can see even with Guardian Shield, this build really crushes Protoss. I come in just as his warp gates arrive, and you pretty much, there's nothing that Protoss can do here, because you have this very precise timing. Just after you get your second Viking or your second tank, push out. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like Protoss is this big army, which he doesn't actually have. And now for the rest of the game, it pretty much involves me just sending in reinforcements, holding off this build. You can see I've got more Vikings, more tanks arriving, more Marines arriving. My siege mode is done, and now I've got to contain on the Protoss. Because my micro and my macro isn't like too good, you can kind of see that you know, my contain doesn't go as well as it should. I do make like a couple of mistakes here or there. As you can see, like I should probably land these Vikings. I think I do a little bit later. You want one Viking to sort of scout this area to make sure that he can't like put units on the ramp, and to sort of use your siege mode range to the maximum. Here I'm using this Viking to scout. I'm going to land these soon. And you can see this Terran build is really, really strong. In the case that Protoss doesn't expand, I wouldn't be pushing. Instead, what I would do is I would expand myself. I would use my siege mode. I put a tank here. I'd put, you know, a couple of tanks here. I keep, you know, a Viking and 4 Marines here, just in case like voidrays decide to come backstab. And you know, I'd macro up and use my economic advantage to sort of have a different atomic attack against the Protoss later in the game. In this game, I saw that Protoss expanded fast, and I could have added an expansion, but I wanted to end the game right here and really seal this contain, so I just kept adding more tanks, more Marines, more Vikings, and pretty much just sealing this contain here before I expand. I think you can see, yeah, now I choose to expand once I feel that I've done enough damage to the Protoss. Vikings are really good, by the way. They do like 14 damage, and you should land them if you build enough. Don't feel that if you built 4 Vikings that's a waste. You can land them, use one to spot, they're great for scouting, and they do a lot of damage, they do a lot of DPS.
And if it goes to the late game, the Protoss is most likely going to get Colossi, and Vikings are really, really good against them since they can shoot them with their enormous range.
And as you can see, this build is really good. Don't think this is Void Ray specific, actually. This Terran build works against all sorts of Protoss all-ins. Versus a 4-gate Robo all-in, you can use this build because you got the Marines. Instead of getting early Vikings, what you do is you get your Tech Lab. Because I scan their base, I see maybe extra gates in the Robo. I get a Tech Lab. You get Ravens and Banshees instead. I personally prefer Ravens because point defense drone is really, really good. As a defensive tool, literally with a point defense drone, Protoss can't attack you. Stalkers do 0 damage. You can put tanks on the ridge, put a point defense drone on the ridge, and if Stalkers try and snipe your tank, it's just not going to work. The only way they can snipe your tank is using Immortals, which have sort of a smaller range. You should put your tanks somewhere around here so that it's hard for Immortals to snipe. Or rather, if Immortals do come and snipe, that you can do a lot of damage to the Marines. And it's only available for Stalkers to snipe, but if Stalkers try and attack it, they'll just waste their attacks. And with a Raven and early Marines and tanks, you can very easily expand. Don't think it's like the old, you know, 3 weeks ago when people used to do Immortal pushes, that they're completely unbeatable. Firstly, now Immortal pushes come about 20 seconds later than they used to. And secondly, you can defend with Marines. Marines, tanks, plus Banshees or Ravens are really, really good against Immortal pushes. And I suggest every Terran does this build. You know, it's very versatile. You don't have to get the Vikings, you can get Ravens, you can get Banshees instead. You can send Banshees to their base and get Cloak if they do something fancy, like a one gate Robo push, Like if they just rush their first immortal, you can send banshees to their base or something, and it's really versatile. And I remember Tester a while ago said that Terran is the most powerful race, and people were like, "Oh, it's not true. Terran versus Protoss is really imbalanced." I'm gonna tell you now. In a few weeks' time, when Terrans actually start catching on to this build, so me and Equilateral are pretty good at Protoss versus Terran, and we've been doing a lot of research in this build. When Terrans catch on to this build, when they start working out how to do this properly, they're going to start winning a lot of their games, and this is really difficult for Protoss to stop. It's kind of like when you're playing StarCraft 1, when you first play, you get owned by DT drops, you get owned by Reaver drops. I actually spent like loads of games getting really frustrated playing against Equilateral because I kept getting my first Marine sniped, and I let his Void Ray charge up on my supply depot. And don't think Equilateral was holding back this game. You know, Protoss is his main. He's like 1,900, 2,000 level Protoss. He's really, really good, and I just crushed him with my off race. So to all Terrans out there, you should start using this build. It's really versatile. It works against all Protoss all-ins, and if played well, you're almost going to guarantee yourself some kind of advantage over the Protoss at some point in the game if you play well. So I hope that you've all enjoyed this video. This video is probably the most important of all my Void Ray videos, because a lot of people complain about Void Rays, that they don't know how to counter it. They think it's really overpowered, when in fact they're not. You can pretty easily counter Void Rays. All you have to do is be very, very clean with your build execution. Don't lose any Marines at the start. Don't let Void Rays charge up in your depots. If you do that, you can push out, win the game. You know, if Protoss goes all in, don't get greedy. Don't push out too far. Just push out a little bit, like a fake double. Drop an expansion. Use Ravens and point defense drone to defend your area. So, Equilateral, do you have any final thoughts for us?
No, I'm pretty sure you covered it all already.
Okay, well, thank you very much for listening in. I hope you all found this educational. Remember to be very good mannered in your games. Always see GG before you leave. I'm going to highlight this pretty much every game. All Terrans, you know, try to learn this build. You know, even if you're a really high level Terran, and you've sort of said in the forums, "Oh, Protoss is really imbalanced," just try this build. Practice it against your Protoss friends. Come practice with us on the EU. I'm BrTarolg.Equilateral. Equilateral, you can choose to give your ID in the future. Come practice with us. Try this build out yourself. You know, we'll help you out. And I hope you found this educational. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please leave comments. Tell us how we can commentate better. Please tell us what you'd like to see in the future. We are Protoss players. And thank you very much. Goodbye.